What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dogger Pass podcast, brought to you by the Mayo Media Network. I'm Madlab. I got my boy Dayton, who is happy because he hit his dog pick of the week this week. Dayton, what's going on, brother?
Not too much, not too much. Josh Van getting me back on the rails, a little dog pick that also won me the bet that I had head-to-head against you. I still got to pick something that you have to do for the bet. I'll think of that. I'll think of that behind the scenes.
Yeah. You think of something and I'll do it. I mean, we had some good things, but I mean, guys, I'm not going to squeeze a fucking lemon in my eye. I won't be able to do the show. But there were some good. We had some good feedback on the show. Couple things I do want to go over, like we do every week. Not a big card this week. Not a real exciting card. Obviously, the past couple cards were really good. This one's a little, up and down. I'd grade it maybe like a C minus, D plus. So obviously you guys know where I'm going with that. I don't know how much action I'm going to actually have on the board, but I do want to go over a couple things that I think are really important. If you don't want to listen to this section of it, just skip over to the fights. But I think it's important that I bring this stuff up. I was going to clip last week's excerpt, but it was like 5 minutes long. And I didn't want to just be. So if you want to see what I'm talking about, you'll know in a minute. Just go and revert back to it, and you'll see the conversation that I had with Dayton on here. I've been talking a lot about the public push, right? I've been talking about a lot about the public push and how, there's content providers now on every corner, like a bodega, and every YouTube page and every Twitter page. And you just get sucked into these narratives, and you can get sucked into this false information, and everybody feels like they have an edge, and everyone feels like they're behind the curtain. Or they got, it's insane to me. And I told you guys it's crazy how this happened, because I told you guys just last week, if you are breaking down film and you're watching film and you have a lean on somebody, or you have a strong feeling on somebody, stick to that. Don't listen to outside noise, because chances are they don't know any more than you do. And they don't. It's really all clickbait. That's really all it is. When these people come out, he's got an undisclosed injury. And I actually used undisclosed injury in the thing about the weight cut and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And look what happens this week. We did this show, and I think Brady was like hovering around minus 150. That was during the recording of this show. Okay. And then what happened was, all of a sudden the line flips. It flips all the way to a point that it hit plus 195 when I was doing my live stream. And I told everybody in my live stream, hit it. And everyone's like, hit it. I go, fucking hit it. This is insane to me. Nobody has any information. This is all people looking for clickbait. You're seeing tweets, who dropped the injury, the undisclosed injury. It's fixed. There's a chance the fight's going to be canceled. These people are acting like they actually have access to Brady. They have zero access. They have as much access as you do, as much access as I do. There was no information out there that indicated that Brady had these injuries. This is all just hearsay, all conspiracy theory narratives, hearsay. The line flips to plus 195. We hit it. He doesn't only beat him, he absolutely destroys Buckley. So I don't know what other proof that you need. Like it's very easy to open up a YouTube page. It's very easy to open up a Twitter handle. It's very easy to say content provider, MMA content provider in your title, or any content provider. The fact of the matter is, it's all clickbait. You're going on these things and you're seeing these guys posting these images with this was him in this weight cut. This was him in this weight cut. And the thing that they're not realizing either with that is how ridiculous it is first of all, every one of those pictures and every one of those videos are taking in a different arena most of the time. So you'll maybe have it in the Apex Center one time. Then you'll have it in T-Mobile another time. Then you'll have it at Madison Square Garden. Then you'll have it here. And yeah, sure, they all have lights, but they have different levels of ceilings, different ultimate lighting systems, and lights mean everything. So they're not looking at these pictures from the same exact location, the same exact lighting, and they're comparing them. I mean, it's that doesn't even take fighting to understand. That just takes common sense, a little bit of detail orientation, a little bit of understanding on, you need lighting from somewhere. If you had natural lighting, they would look different. If you were in a room where the ceilings were 10 feet and the other one was 15 feet, they would look different. If the lights that they used, the hot lamps, were 10 feet back because of a certain furniture that they had in the place, that they had to put them on different angles, that makes difference. The fact that these people are posting pictures of like weigh-ins from this time and weigh-ins from this time, and he looks like, it's absolutely diabolical that people actually listen to this. And when they listen to it, they run to the window. They run to the window, or they back up on their bets, or they take them out of their DraftKings, or they do this, or they do that. And then all of a sudden it's okay. Now the sharp people, right before the fight started slamming the other way again. They started slamming the other way again. They brought that line from like plus 195 right back down to, he was still plus money, but they chopped the big thing. It was like a seesaw effect, because you have these people out there that are selling you these false narratives and you believe them. Like, stop believing them. That's why you'll never see me on like doing guest spots or doing this or doing that, because I don't want to be involved with outside noise. So this is just a lesson learned. Like, go with your gut. Go with what you think. If you really believe Brady was going to win that fight, that's what the film indicated. Unless you hear it from a reliable source, like an Aaron Bronstetter or something like that, like, don't listen to it. There's nothing there. That's all guesswork. So lesson learned. I hope you guys stood by your path and stayed with Brady and made some extra money, maybe even doubled down, because we doubled down on it. And maybe even doubled down and didn't pull him out of your DraftKings and stuff, because he absolutely dominated the fight. So hopefully this is a lesson learned for you guys, to be very weary on who you listen to. As far as the card in the whole, really good card. I mean, it was a fun card. What a fight between Tara and Van. Van proved a lot to me. Like he did. He proved a lot to me. Like he will jump into the fire. The kid is talented. I'm not gonna deny that any longer. Do I still think Pantoja beats him? Absolutely. But the kid is good. The kid is super sharp. The kid's got power. He's got conditioning. He's got good cage IQ. A couple times he did a couple things that were a little iffy. I felt like he could have finished Tara a couple times and he kind of backed up on it. And Tara too. Tara on a loss gained my respect. Couple things that he did as well that maybe he could have did a little bit differently, but great fight altogether. I'm not too sure how I feel about the stoppage. To be honest with you, I thought maybe in a championship fight, got to let it go a little bit longer. But then I could also say, how much longer could it have gone? Maybe 10 more seconds, maybe he would have been out. I don't know. I don't know. But what if the style that he had, maybe he did grab a leg and maybe was able to ground him and get on top of him, collect his wits again, and then off we go. So I don't know. Would I personally have let it go a little bit longer? Yes, I would have let it go a little bit longer. But I'm not screaming over the stoppage. I just think a championship fight deserves to get a little bit more. But great fight, great win for Van. I'm looking forward to him and Pantoja. I really, really am. And then the main event, man, what can we say about the main event? Sean Strickland does it again. He does it again. And, I'm not going to sit here and say I picked Strickland, because I didn't. I did pick Chimaev, but I did say in the video, I said, when you're breaking Chimaev down, you got to look at the guys who refuse to get bullied, right? Kamaru Usman refused to get bullied, lost, but refused to get bullied, gave him a good fight. Gilbert Burns refused to be bullied, lost, but still, it was a good fight. And you knew that Strickland wasn't going to get bullied. You knew that if Chimaev was going to beat him, it was just because he couldn't stop him. Wasn't the fact that he was going to fear him or he was going to bully him or anything like that. It was just, he just wasn't equipped to handle the pressure of someone like Chimaev. And he did amazing. I mean, some of the whizzers that he was hitting. And what's crazy about that fight too is that this is another thing for the conspiracy theorists and the narrative writers out there that swayed so many people to get off Brady. Why didn't, if you have all this inside information and all this inside intel, then why didn't you know about the separated AC joint for Strickland that he was talking about? Then on Tuesday, he had a grade 2 AC joint separation where when he was in the back, he wasn't even warming up. Why didn't you have that inside information if you got so much detailed information? You know what I mean? That's what I mean. So now imagine that would have came out that he had an AC joint issue. Forget about it. I mean, that thing would have flew to minus 2,000. I mean, people would have just been putting him in every parlay, Chimaev, this and that. There's no way he's going to win. Think about if that narrative got out. But that wasn't a narrative. That was actually a true thing. Like, he actually said that, he was wrestling with Johnny Eblen, and he kind of ran into a wall that wasn't padded, and he had a grade 1 AC joint tear. That actually did happen. You know, nobody talking about that. There was no inside information that came out about that. So what a win for Strickland. And at this point in time, here's my question for you before we jump into this card. But like I said, this card's nothing too great. It's not like we have a lot of information to spill on you here. So I do want to talk about some important things. Is where do you put him now? Like, where do you put him in the conversation to the greats of middleweight? I mean, he's a 2-time middleweight champion now. He beat Israel Adesanya. He beat Chimaev. Like, he beat 2 guys that at one point in time were considered kind of unbeatable. You know what I mean? So where and nobody really gave him a chance in those fights. They didn't really give him the great chance against Izzy. They didn't give him a chance here. I mean, by line indication. So where do you put Sean Strickland at this point? Like, where do you grade him? Where do you rank him amongst middleweight? So drop that below. I want to hear your thoughts on that. We also have another fight this weekend. We have the MVP card. Since this card is really kind of shallow, and there's not much to really talk about, we're going to throw in the main event for Carano and Rousey. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, just give you some food for thought. There's really no way to predict it. You haven't seen these girls in so many years, but we'll throw that on the back end, and I'll just give you my thoughts, my opinion on it, and see what happens from there. But so we do have two cards this weekend. Both of them are mediocre. But listen, anytime there's a fight on a weekend, or anytime you can get 2 fights on a weekend, then, you know, we should all be happy. As far as boxing, I got to dig a little bit deeper. Not a huge boxing weekend, but if you want all my information, go to the madlabmma.com. Everything's included. We're basketball. We got guys doing basketball. I went 6-1 this week with basketball playoffs. I almost swept the board in MMA and boxing, except for 1 fight. So we have a great community, sharp community. Like I said, we go live before the fights and we talk about all these things. And that's why we hit Brady at plus 195. Everybody as a collective agreed to do it, and we all slammed it. So if you want some real sharp, you know, knowledgeable, detailed, realistic takes, come check us out. I think you'll enjoy it. So, okay, let's go over this card now. So we're going to go to the main event, which actually is a good main event. This is the 1 fight on the card. It should, right, be good. You have Arnold Allen minus 155. You got Melquizael Costa at plus 135. The over and under 4.5. The over is 135. The under is plus 115. Now, I'm not going to jump into these huge detailed formats with some of these fights. I think I'm going to give you my thoughts on them, and I'm going to give you rhymes and reasons why I'm picking the people. I don't think fights like this can be ultimately predicted and how it's going to play out with their styles, because you have one guy whose style is a little bit unpredictable, and another guy's style who sometimes, even though he's more fundamentally sound, can be unpredictable as far as his output, his pace, and his consistency. When you look at Costa, this is a guy who, was the first guy to knock out Ige in his last fight. Huge feather in his cap, right? But here's what people aren't really understanding about that. First of all, Ige's tough as nails. But when you get knocked out, when somebody gets knocked out, 9 out of 10 times when that person gets knocked out, it's the punch or the kick or whatever that you don't see coming. That's the one that knocks you out. It's not necessarily when you're squared up with somebody and you're throwing punches that he's hitting you like this and you're getting knocked out. They're the ones that you don't see coming, where they kind of blindside you. They catch you by surprise. Kind of what happened in that fight a little bit. Also, Ige's been in wars, man. Like, he's been in a lot of wars. Like, eventually the gold is going to tarnish. That chin is going to tarnish. And it's not so much that he is losing his durability, but you start losing a step, and milliseconds matter. So his reaction times with certain things start to slow down. So if you're missing by a split second with your reaction times, and you're just a little bit behind the 8 ball, a little bit slow, and you're getting caught by shots and situations that normally you kind of catch on to, it's a new world at that point. So great win. I'm not taking a win away from him, but you also got to remember, like, just because he's the first guy to finish him doesn't mean he's unfinishable. Like, anybody can be finished in the right circumstance, in the right situation. When you look at Arnold Allen, this was a fight where, he's coming off a loss now against John Silva. It was a great fight. It's a really, really good fight. He had John Silva hurt in some points. John Silva had him hurt in some points. It was a very good competitive fight. The thing that I liked about him in this fight, but it can also be a detriment, and this is something that I noticed when I went to watch film, is that he's very fluid with his movement. Like he really does have very good lateral movement. Arnold Allen does, and he kind of uses like a crawfish defense, right? It's almost like a cross between an X guard, defense, and like almost like a Philly shell. It's like a little bit split, and that works very well when you are protecting the top half of your upper torso. It works very well, but it does tend to expose your body a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it's just the way you're holding. You're kind of ricocheting off things, and you're hitting your elbows. You're using your elbows as defense mechanisms, and you're protecting the upper half of your head here. But your middle torso is not really exposed, but you got to kind of drop your level a little bit. Which, if you don't drop them fast enough, obviously you're going to get caught there. So you can. And then when you look on the other side, how do you maintain that, and how do you manage that from the other side, from the opposing fighter? You're kick heavy. Right? What do you want to do if you're really not a lateral movement guy and you're going against a lateral movement guy? You want to use leg kicks. You want to use body kicks. You want to use things to kind of either keep them in place or slow down their movement. And that's what Costa does really well. What he does really well is he goes to the legs. He will go to the, sneaky high kicks. He will utilize his legs as much as he needs to. And when you get a guy like Arnold Allen who uses that, lateral movement, and he needs that movement to gain his angles and stuff. If you can kind of keep him in place, now he's kind of a sit and duck target like you. Or if you can injure him and take that, pepper that leg enough and keep that movement to a minimum, now you have an easier target on your hands. So my fear with this fight isn't that Arnold Allen's not going to check leg kicks, isn't that he's going to just take a collection of kicks. My fear is that he's going to roll into a kick. He's going to circle into a kick, because what happens is he tends to sometimes circle the same way, the majority. Like he will go back and forth, but he will start drifting to one side a lot more than he does the other. And if now Melquizael Costa starts working that side to continue to make him circle, now he's timing him for something that he's going to, over the top, that he's going to make him run into. And when you run into a kick, when you circle into a punch, the momentum of the it's the impact is a lot more, and that's how you get knocked out. So that's my fear, that he's going to kind of download the data. He's going to kind of set him up to rotate him in a certain direction, and then he's going to deliver a nasty high kick, or he's going to deliver something that he's going to just kind of walk on. But that's the scenario for Costa. As far as Allen, I think just him staying in space, him utilizing a very long jab. He's very athletic. He's very smart in the cage. He does a lot of good things. Utilizes space, obviously, in real estate very well, and he hits with a lot of intent. He does hit with a lot of intent, and I just think he's the bigger, stronger, more athletic, more seasoned. He's been 5 rounds before. He's got the main event experience. He's got the better level of opposition. I think this is a good spot for him. I do. I think the Gene Silva fight, even though he's coming off a loss, he fought really well in that fight. Gene Silva is a very good fighter. He's a very good fighter. There's no shame in losing to Gene Silva, especially by decision. So I like Arnold Allen here. I don't really like his number per se. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm going to go near this fight unless I could find something prop wise or same game parlay type of thing to run on it. But I'm not crazy about his price, because Melquizael Costa is sneaky. Melquizael Costa is the type of guy that can run you onto something. And there's really nothing you could do about it once he starts making his reads. If he starts chipping away at that leg, and we've seen Arnold Allen rock before, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go Arnold Allen. No, I just think he's a little bit too technical, a little too strong, a little too athletic, and I just like his resume a little bit more. So then we go over to the co-main event, which I honestly think that this could be a wild fight. This could be a super, super wild fight. Got Dooho Choi plus 145 against Daniel Santos minus 170. The over is plus 105. The under is minus 125. And I agree with that. I actually agree with that. I don't know if I agree with this line. I think this line is a little high for minus 170, but I absolutely believe what the over and under is indicating here. I do think this thing goes inside the distance. And here's why. You got a guy in Daniel Santos. This guy is like the epitome of shooto box. He's got that style. Like, in order to be that kind of fighter, you need that like street fighter mentality, that dog mentality. fighting when you don't even know where you are, you're swinging. Like, that's just the type of personality this kid has. It's extremely wild, extremely chaotic. He's going to jump into the fire. He's got numerous paths that he can win offensively. The problem with him is his defense. He throws caution to the wind. This kid throws caution to the wind, and you can't do that when you have the kind of chin. He's been rocked numerous times. He's been hurt numerous times. Mind you, he climbs his way back, and he makes things happen because he kind of outdogs a lot of people. But that's not a recipe for longevity. I was having an argument with somebody the other day about point guards, and we were talking about like who we thought the best point guard was. He was a big Laker fan, so he said Magic Johnson. I said, for me personally, I thought it was John Stockton. And he asked me why, and I said, well, take away the numbers, take away the assists, take away the steals, take away that he really had nobody but Karl Malone, take away all that stuff. Look at his longevity. The guy didn't miss games. He was extremely durable. He had a 19-year career because, he was able to withstand the punishment, and he was just, the longevity of him made him so good and so great and so consistent and so reliable. In fighting, you have such a smaller window that you can't continue to fight like that. Like, the longevity of your career will just dwindle. There's outliers like Justin Gaethje and stuff like that, where I don't think the kid's fucking human. But Mayweather did the same thing in his career. Why do you think he's fighting again? Like, do I agree with the things that he's doing now with the fights? No, but at the end of the day, if you watch him hit the bag, if you watch him talk, if you watch him do these things, he does them at a high level. Why? Because he didn't take punishment. And his favorite saying was, taking punishment isn't cool. Getting punched isn't cool. So as boring as his fights were, the guy never took punishment. So taking punishment and getting into these fires are fun for us. They're fun for the fan. They're fan fight. We love them. But if the longevity of a fighter's career, it's not good. When you look at Dooho Choi, a lot of people don't know who he is, outside of the hardcores like ourselves. If you're watching the show, you're obviously a hardcore. Very talented kid. Very, very talented kid. Unfortunately, he got caught up in the whole Korean War thing where he had to go 3 years. Like, it's mandated over there that you have to do 3 years of service. Doesn't matter. They don't care you're a fighter. They wouldn't care if you were the top, athlete in the world. You got to go. It's mandated. So he lost 3 years of his career. Now he's 35 years old. He's back since before he left, he was a 3-fight losing streak. Then he ends up leaving. He comes back. He gets a draw, and he gets 2 wins by knockout. By Landwehr and Algeo. And Algeo I'm very familiar with because I used to call his fights. He's from my area. And very tricky to deal with. Very, very tricky character to deal with. And obviously Landwehr, when he fought him, Landwehr was more the Landwehr that we remember. So the kid is a good fighter, but he, people are looking at, well, he's 35 years old. He hasn't been super active. Now there's a pro and con to that, right? There's a pro and con to that. The pro is that when you look at someone like Daniel Santos, listen how active this kid has been. Let me try to pull this up here. Okay. This kid has been so active. So he fought 1, 2, wait a minute. 1, 2. Was it May, June, July, August, September, October? Fought 2 times in 5 months or whatever like that. Now he's here in 2026. So he had a little bit of time off. But if you look at Dooho Choi, this guy hasn't fought for 3 years up until this point. So he's not an active fighter. So here's the good thing about that. Well, the bad thing about that is rust. I'm a firm believer in rust. Okay, but he is active again. And he's winning fights, which is good. The bad thing, the good thing about it is that I just told you that fighting has a very small window. So even though he's 35 in numerical age and biological age, when it comes to fighting, he's not. He's been in wars, yes, when he's fought, but he had a 3-year window to kind of not do the weight cuts, to not beat up his body, to not take the punishment, to not go through the rigmarole of camp and stuff like that. So yeah, what does it suck in a way because you kind of wish you had those extra 3 years to see what he could have been or what some of these Korean fighters could have been if they didn't have to go on these mandated tours. But at the end of the day, when it comes to freshness of the body, he's 35, but he's not a normal 35-year-old fighter. You know what I mean? He's had the break. He's had a 3-year layoff, not because of injury, not because of suspension, not because he had to literally mandate and leave. Now, when these two guys fight, both of these guys can be chaotic at times, but Daniel Santos is just chaos. He's chaos personified. And when you look at Dooho Choi, he's chaos, but he's chaos in structure. And I just personally like that better. I like chaos and structure. I don't like no chaos at all. I like chaos, but I need chaos and structure. To me, when you have just chaos personified, you're coming in, you're swinging, you're not worrying about your chin, you're not worried about repercussions, you're not worrying about anything come back until it comes back. And then when it comes back and you get clipped with something, now you put yourself in a situation. Dooho Choi is chaos, but he's chaos, chaos, within the barriers of structure. So I'm going to take Dooho Choi. I'm going to say Dooho Choi gets this done in round number 3. Okay, next fight. We have Malcolm Wellmaker versus Juan Diaz. Now, minus 275 for Wellmaker, plus 235 for Diaz. He got the over is plus 115. The other under is minus 135. I actually like the under here in this fight. When you look at Juan Diaz, you got to kind of wonder, you can read between the lines a little bit with this fight, right? Like, it's on a main card. It's not on the main card because of Juan Diaz. Like, that's not why this fight's on the main card, unless they know something about Juan Diaz that we don't know. Now, I think Juan Diaz is a good fighter. I watched his Contender Series. I watched some of his regional stuff. He is a good fighter. He's not a bad fighter, but he's on the main card because of Wellmaker. They're trying to get Wellmaker back on the board after I wouldn't say a diabolical situation, because something really good came out of it. This wasn't some kid that they just dragged out to fight Wellmaker and then he got mollywopped the next fight. They actually found a little bit of a diamond in the rough with this kid, that Ewing, that beat Wellmaker. He looked fantastic in his last fight. He looked fantastic against Wellmaker. So although the gun kind of blew up in your face, it kind of blew up your face in the right direction, because now you got somebody that you're like, we can work with this kid. Like, this kid's got something that is that we can work with. And when you're looking at Wellmaker, the reason why this could be good for him is because in every fighter's career, you got to be humbled, right? You have to be humbled. You either have to be in that crazy, greasy war that you get the split decision in, or you get into a war where you're knocked down, like Daniel Dubois was this weekend. We was knocked down 2 times in the first round. Then he comes back and he storms Mirsan Bektik versus Darren Elkins. Watch that fucking fight. That was as primal as it gets. So you go through these situations where you got to be humbled. And sometimes it does take a look. Look at Michel Pieta when he fought Tristan Connolly. He was the biggest favorite on the card, right? He was doing all this dynamic shit. He was jumping around. And the kid beat him. It was like, it was one of the biggest upsets. It was the biggest upset of the card. And then all of a sudden, Michel Pieta went back and he became humbled and he started winning every fight. He was a little bit more dialed in. He was taking fights a little bit more seriously. He was less chaotic. He was taking less chances. He was fighting more within the walls of structure, and he looked a lot better. He's kind of fell off a little bit since, but he went through a streak where you're like, this is the guy. Now he realizes, like, on any given Saturday, you can fucking lose. So with Wellmaker, he relied on that right hand for so long. Like, that right hand during the regionals for so long, that piston of a right, knocking dudes out, that you eventually start buying into it. But you need more. Like, you need so much more in MMA. You need grappling. You need both hands. You need a good setup shots. Like, you can't just rely on athletic ability, being matchup dependent, and having 15 minutes to land that shot. You can't, because eventually you're going to run into a guy like Ewing that's got 2 hands, that can hit you with both hands, that has good defense, that understands boxing, that understands angle work, and then he will lose you in translation like he did with Wellmaker. So what I think what happens in this fight now is we're going to see a little bit of a Wellmaker 1.5, not so much a 2.0, but I think we're going to see a little bit of a 1.5. We're going to see a little bit of a more structured Wellmaker. We're going to see a kid who's setting things up a little bit more, who's kind of understanding, like, yeah, like, I need more than this right hand. So I think little elements are going to be dropped into his game for this fight that we probably haven't seen. And I think it's going to work out well for him. And I do. And I think this is another situation now where I don't think they get it wrong twice. Like, I think Juan Diaz is a good fighter. I'm not saying he's completely out of this fight, but I do think Wellmaker's in a situation here, when the UFC put him in a situation here where, look, that fight is aging okay. I mean, did we want you to lose that fight? No, but it's aging okay, because look how good Ewing is right now. Like, we have another kid now that maybe down the road you guys will meet again. But we're going to give you the main card. We're going to give you a spot on the main card. We're going to give you a kid who's tough. We're not going to give you a point. We're going to give you a tough kid, but it's a kid that you could run through. Like if you really utilize your ability and add on, to your game and kind of make it a little bit more functional, and don't just rely on your right hand. It's a guy you should beat. It's a guy you should beat. So I'm going to go Wellmaker here. I'm going to go Wellmaker by knockout, and I think that people start to kind of forget what happened with him and Ewing. Okay, next fight we go. This fight had changes fucking everywhere. You have Modestas Bukauskas versus Christian Edwards. I'm not really going to talk on this fight. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to pick Bukauskas. This fight, Christian Edwards is coming in. Good for him. He's getting the opportunity. That's awesome. I appreciate any guy. It doesn't matter how they get the opportunity. If you get the opportunity, try to make the best of it. You might find lightning in a bottle. And I'll be honest with you, Bukauskas is a guy that you can find lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean? It's not like you're going against, Pantoja, or you're going against a Josh Van, or you're going against, a Joe Pfeiffer or some of these guys that you're like, all right, bro, you're bringing this fucking guy in from ABC Gym, and you can expect me to. But Bukauskas is okay. He's all right. He's got some decent fundamentals. He does a lot of good things, but to say that some regional guy can't come in and just beat him would be ludicrous. He does have Bellator experience. He does have some pro experience. It's not like this guy's just being pulled out from some, Thunderdome fucking regional circuit. Like, he does have some legitimate experience behind him. I don't think he's going to win the fight, but to say he can't capture lightning in a bottle and beat Bukauskas on super late notice, I think would be a ludicrous thing to say. So I'm going to pick Bukauskas here. But I would never pay minus 300 for Bukauskas. So I'm leaving it completely alone. We're going to move on to the next fight, though. We're going to move on to a fight that could be fight of the night. Timmy Cuamba plus 130, minus 150 for Bernardo Sopaj. I was a little surprised when I saw this, to be honest with you. I like Sopaj. I think Sopaj is a talent. I think both of these kids are super talented, but I was a little surprised. I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little surprised to see him as a favorite. I thought Cuamba would be the slight favorite here. When you watch the the Oliveira fight, the lock dog fight with Sopaj, the one thing I did notice about him, the kid's a clean striker. Like, the kid is a clean striker. He does a lot of nice things. He's pretty well rounded. He's talented. He's aggressive. But I saw the weakness in that fight was lock dog just peppering away at that leg, and he would go into these hardcore boxing positions where if you understand boxing, they're the guys like you want to attack the front leg. Like, you want to attack that leg because they are so heavy on that front leg. Doesn't mean they're a boxer. It means when they go into boxing position for a little bit too long, they're showing that front leg, and that's when you can expose it. So I'm not saying that Sopaj comes out and he's all of a sudden a traditional boxer for 5 minutes, but he does rotate into a boxing position numerous times per round. And if you can kind of sight fish that, and every time he does it, start chipping away at that lead leg like Lock Dog did, you could see what it does to him. Makes him very ginger, and that was one of the causes why he lost the fight. Lock Dog just kept chewing him up. And when you do that, you lose your leverage. He was losing his leverage. He was throwing sloppy shots. He was kind of swinging, swinging with his shoulders instead of using his leverage, swiveling his foot and using his hips. Everything was all shoulder. He was swinging with shoulder. And then you fight a guy like Ricky Turcios where he wins. And listen, I have respect for Ricky Turcios. He's tricky. He's fun. He's durable. He's going to fight, his balls off. But at the end of the day, like, if you're a good fighter, a seasoned guy, like somebody who's got like legit upside, you got to beat Ricky Turcios. And he did. He ends up beating Ricky Turcios in that fight. Then you move over to Timmy Cuamba, and it's just, there's something about this kid's boxing and striking that I like. He's very, very sharp. He's got fast hands. He utilizes a very long jab. His combinations are just so much more crisp. I was watching these guys side by side. So I pretty much opened up two screens because I was a little curious, because I went in thinking, I was like, Sopaj's striking is really good. And then I was watching Cuamba. I'm like, wait a minute, I think Cuamba's striking is actually better. His patterns are better. His combinations are better. The way he catches them on the end of the punches. I said, let me put these guys side by side. So I started watching them side by side, and I was like drifting back and forth with my eye as they were fighting. And I just like Cuamba's style. It's cleaner for me. It's a cleaner style striking. He's going to be the bigger guy in there. I think he's slightly better everywhere. I do. I think he's slightly better everywhere. Than Sopaj is. So I'm going to take the dog here. So this is the one dog on the main card I will take a stab at. I'm going to take Cuamba, just being a little bit of a cleaner fighter, a little bit more paths. And I just feel like he, when you're dealing with two kids that are this close in comparison, and I'm not talking their styles, I'm just talking the way they kind of match up and how it could be a close fight. There's these little ebbs and flows that you look at, their size, their length, who fights a little bit cleaner, who's, you know what I mean? You look at those little nuances, and then ultimately you'll find your decision. So I'm going to go Timothy Cuamba here. I will take the dog. And I believe we got one more on this card, Dayton? Or is that it? Yeah, that's it. This is it. All right, so we got Nikolay Veretennikov versus Khaos Williams. You got plus 110 for Veretennikov. You got minus 130 for Khaos Williams. This boils down to structure again for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go into this big hoopla and break down stats. And there was nothing about Khaos Williams that I was ever really a fan of. I wasn't a fan when he first came in, and I'm not a fan now. And that's not to say he doesn't deserve to be here. It's not to say he's not fun. It's not to say any of those things. I just don't think he's a good fighter. I think he's a guy who's got a ton of power. He's extremely explosive. He kind of just crosses the fray right out of the gate, and he brings an element of just chaos, like right out of the gate, where if he finds you sleeping or you kind of shy away or he puts you on the back foot and you leave an opening and he catches you, you're going to sleep. You're going to sleep. I mean, he does some good thing. He does some nice things. I'm not saying like he's just all gas and no break, but for the most part, he's kind of all gas and no break. Like, that's when he's successful. If you put him in a really strategic fight, like somebody who's really strategic and really calculated and really dialed in and making him adjust, like if you go in there and you make Khaos Williams have to adjust, he's going to have a problem adjusting. He only knows like a couple ways to adjust, a couple ways to fight, and I just think Veretennikov is a guy who could make those, he could throw those questions at him that he's going to have to try to find answers. And his answer is going to be, I need to just throw power. I need to go in there and I got to knock this guy's head off. And I got to just push through whatever he's trying to do because I can't alter my game that many times. And that's just the way I look at fighters like Khaos Williams. I look at fighters like Khaos Williams, fighters like Tyson, fighters like those heavy, scrappy fighter, brawler guys. They only have a couple things in their pocket that they can alter. They only have a couple ways that they can change. And then if you keep throwing questions, you keep throwing these little landmines out there and this, that, eventually they're just going to walk onto it themselves. They're going to beat themselves. They're going to change their style to a point where it becomes desperate and they beat themselves. So listen, can he win? Yep. 100%. Does he have the power to knock anybody out in the division? Yep. Is he durable? Yep. Has he showed a decent gas tank going down the stretch as far as being durable and stuff like that? Yep. He's showed all that stuff. He keeps himself in the fight. I just think Veretennikov has a little bit more on the plate, almost like the Cuamba fight. I just think he's got a little bit more to offer. He could change up a little bit more. He has different paths. He could match him in certain categories. And I just think he's a little bit more polished. So give me Veretennikov here for the win. I'm going to say by decision. Okay, before we jump into the Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey fight, I'm going to see if we can get the streak continued with the Josh Van pick, and then let's see if we can make him go 2-0. What do you got, Tatum?
All right. Well, Josh Van did me well last week. Gonna hope to keep on the same track. You should like this one a little bit better than last week too. Timmy Cuamba.
Oh, nice. Was that your pick before I spoke?
Yes, but
wow, okay.
Not for the reason that you might think.
What is it?
I think what's his name? Bernardo
Sopaj.
Yeah, I think he looks like a fucking dick.
Well, let me see. Pull up his picture again.
Fuck, I don't
no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see if he looks like a dick.
Big time.
I never looked at him that way. Let me see. Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, he does kind of look like a dick now that I'm looking at him. Yeah. He looks like
he's got a punchable face.
Yeah, exactly. He looks like, what the fuck's going on here? Why isn't this not working? Yeah, he does. He looks like a guy who like fucking shaves his eyebrows and shit, like one of those guys.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano fight real quick, and then I'll get you guys out of there, out of here. You know how many people are asking me if I'm excited about this fight, and I'm just like, no. There's nothing about me that cares about this fight. If you asked me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I'd say yeah, because I was a huge Gina Carano fan, not for the reasons that you think. I had a huge crush on her. You know, she was like the first girl that came into like the sport, outside of like Cyborg and stuff like that, and not the first girl that came into the sport, because there were plenty of girls before her that get no due. They get zero due, and some of them I even know. I'm not going to mention their names. That get no shine, but because she was the first like really attractive female, they consider her like the pioneer. But there were plenty of girls like Debbie Pearsall. Fuck it, I'll say one of them. Debbie Pearsall was one of the OGs of female MMA, but you know, these girls didn't get to shine. Then you got Gina Carano coming in, who was very attractive, came from that, you know, that karate style background, actually didn't know how to fight, knew how to strike, and they brought her in, and she got the shine that, you know, she started bringing a little bit eyes, male eyes, female eyes. If she could do that, I could do that. And then she would always avoid the Cyborg fight. It was Cyborg. Nobody wanted to fight Cyborg. Then she fought Cyborg, and Cyborg absolutely fucking dismantled her. And then all of a sudden from there spawned Ronda Rousey. After Dana White said, I'll never have a female fighter, it'll never happen, girls shouldn't be fighting, he brings in Ronda Rousey, and she becomes one of the biggest female, you know, stars in combat sports at that time. I never thought Ronda Rousey was that good. I thought Ronda Rousey was a victim, and I say victim because it's not her fault, but she was a victim of just very watered down competition, like just very watered down. Came from a legit judo background, you know, but you put her in girls against the girls today, both of these girls, if you brought them and put them into the UFC today, they would get dismantled by 80%, 75% of the women on the roster. Like, they would get destroyed by 75%. It's just too much of a different game now. So now you're saying to myself, well, I'm going to watch the fight because I think they're both hot and this and that, and they're both legends of the game. Okay, I get it. I'm going to watch too. I'm absolutely 1000% watching that fight. But when you're looking at who's going to win, how do you predict this fight? Anybody who comes in and tells you that they got a good feel on this fight, this is what's going to happen, they're out of their minds. Like, it's guesswork. So I'm just going to tell you a couple things that you can take and you can make your own decision up. All right. So Gina Carano, first of all, extremely, you know, not really well-rounded. She's not really a grappler. She never was a grappler. She's a striker, and she was a decent striker, but she was somebody who was extremely fucking beatable as well. Just the level of opposition that she fought at that time. She was a little bit ahead of her time, and she was extremely marketable. She leaves the sport of MMA. Okay, she leaves the sport of MMA. She goes into her acting career. She gains a ton of weight. She disappears off the map. It's obviously she wasn't training at the time. I mean, you're not training and then you gain all that weight. Had a lot of public scrutiny, would disappear, would come back, would disappear. But she hasn't fought in years and years and years and years and years. Now, all of a sudden, she comes in and she looks beautiful again. God bless her for losing the weight. God bless her that she found something to hold on to and train for. God bless her. Like, I love to see that. I love to see the rebound story. There's nothing better than the return. That's the best, the return. You know, she made the return, but she's been highly inactive and she's been highly on the shelf. And then you're looking at someone like Ronda Rousey. You're like, well, Madlab, she's been on the shelf too. Has she been though? Like, yeah, she's been on the shelf for a couple years, and she's been on the shelf from an MMA perspective. She's been on, but if you really think about it, go through what she's done afterwards. Now, I'm not comparing wrestling. I'm not saying wrestling is real. I'm not saying wrestling, but what she was doing at least until 2023, 2024, which is just like 2 years ago, was at least she had her spark plugs firing on all cylinders. Her reaction time, she was still taking bumps and bruises. She was still being athletic. She was still using her judo. She was still, you know, just physically moving, going through the wear and tear of traveling, of doing nightly shows, to doing this and doing that, and, you know, taking falls and taking hits and doing. Her body was still in kind of a mode. So, you know, in essence, yeah, has she fought MMA? Has she took a real clean punch to the face? or anything like that, or had that adrenaline since back the last time she fought. No, she hasn't. But her body was still firing on some kind of athletic cylinder. You know what I mean? And that means a lot. That means a lot. And then you take that and you couple into her ability to ground the fight, even though her striking is horrible. If she decides to stand with Gina Carano for this fight and not go to the ground, then I would say Gina Carano is probably going to win because Gina Carano is a better striker. But even then, I don't know. Is her timing going to be there? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really just, is she going to get her to the ground? And when she gets to the ground, is Gina going to be able to survive? That's the way I personally look at it. And I just look at, people are overlooking the firing of your cylinders as an athlete that she was at least still doing to some extent, where the other one was on a shelf. She was eating, she was blowing up. Like, yeah, you physically, externally, she looks fantastic, but internally, does she have the conditioning? Is she going to last? Is her timing going to be there? Could she even fathom taking a punch again? You know, so for me, it's just going to be nostalgic and fun to watch. Do I hope Gina wins? Yeah, I would love to see Gina win the fight, just to see how tormented, you know, Ronda Rousey gets after the fight. But it'll be a nightmare for her. I'll tell you that right now. If Ronda Rousey loses this fight by some stretch of the means, it would be a epic disaster for her personality. Epic. I mean, epic. And I think Gina's a sweetheart. You know, she went through a rough time, so I'm pulling for her to win. But like I said, I would stay away from this. Anyone who thinks that they can predict this fight is out of their fucking bird. And that's pretty much it. If you want all my content, the madlabmma.com, come check us out. Like I said, everything's one price under one roof. Best community around, sharpest guys in the industry, in the live stream and stuff. And we just have a great time. Everybody who's been a member has been a long time member, because we treat everybody like family. So once again, this is Dogger Pass Podcast, brought to you by the Mayo Media Network. Comment, like, subscribe. Pat's also got a ton of other things on his site. I know he's in the heart of PGA right now, so go check that out. Let's got football season coming around. You still got the basketball playoffs. So this channel is very, very active. If you don't follow the channel, follow it. Put your notification buttons on anytime we drop a video. This way you know it's there. And I will talk to you next week on a better card.